If modern quantum physics says that the behavior of matter can be influenced by the process of observation, did the Upanishads, thousands of years ago, also point to the same role of consciousness? Is it possible that science and Vedanta are not two different directions, but two paths leading to the same truth? In today's video, we will understand the observer effect in quantum physics, the consciousness theory of the Upanishads, and a deep, thought-provoking bridge hidden between the two. And most importantly, how we can share this understanding with our family and the next generation so that a vibrant dialogue between science and spirituality can be born. What happens when the most profound and mysterious theory of modern science converges with an ancient truth that has echoed for thousands of years? What happens when a glimpse of a great scientific puzzle of the 20th century begins to be heard in the words of the sages of ancient India? This is the question that leads us on a wonderful intellectual journey. A journey where the discoveries of the laboratory and the experiences of meditation seem to point toward the same mystery. Imagine a reality that, before you observe it, is only a subtle expansion of possibilities. A situation where the behavior of matter is not determined until it is observed. This is not a tale of imagination, but a profound mystery of this very universe. Modern quantum physics, through its experiments, has revealed a glimpse of this mystery. And surprisingly, the vision of the Upanishads also seems to point toward this very depth of consciousness. This is why this video is not just a discussion of science or spirituality. It is a quest for that invisible bridge that spans from the laboratories of modern science to the meditative traditions of the Himalayas. We will see how the behavior of the most subtle unit of matter and the deepest experience of consciousness both inspire us to view the mystery of reality from a new perspective. And then a profound question arises before us. The question is not whether our thoughts can change reality. The real question is, does reality remain the same even when it is not being observed? Some principles of quantum physics point towards this possibility. And surprisingly, the vision of the Upanishads also seems to indicate the same mystery. By the end of this journey, it is possible that you may begin to see this universe, and perhaps yourself, from a new perspective. Our journey reaches the beginning of the 20th century. At that time, many scientists believed that almost all the mysteries of the universe had been understood. Newton's laws had explained phenomena ranging from the motion of planets to falling apples. The universe seemed like a vast clock, with each part moving according to definite rules. Everything appeared predictable, orderly, and stable. But then, scientists decided to look into the smallest parts of this clock, namely, the atom. And what they saw there deeply challenged the established notions of physics. At the center of this transformation is a famous experiment, the Double-Slit experiment. It is considered the most mysterious and thought-provoking experiment in the history of modern science. It is essential to understand it because it opens the door to a new reality that changed the direction of science itself. Imagine you are throwing balls at a wall. The wall has two narrow parallel slits. Naturally, the balls that pass through those slits will create two clear stripes on the screen placed behind, exactly in front of the slits. This is completely straightforward and simple mathematics. Scientists conducted the same experiment with an extremely tiny particle of matter, the electron. They also expected to see two distinct bands on the screen. However, the result was very surprising. Instead of two bands, a specific pattern of many parallel stripes appeared on the screen. This is called an interference pattern. Such a pattern usually forms when a wave, like water waves, passes through two slits. The waves emerging from both slits meet each other, sometimes reinforcing and sometimes weakening each other. And this creates the pattern.
The meaning was extremely astonishing. A single electron, which we had so far considered only as a particle, was behaving like a wave. It seemed as if it was passing through both slits at the same time and then interfering with itself like waves. This was as strange as if a person were to pass through two different doors at the same moment. Naturally, a question arose in the minds of scientists. If the electron is behaving this way, then we should see through which slit it actually passes. With this curiosity, they installed a device near the slits to determine whether the electron passed through slit A or B.
When the experiment was repeated, the device clearly indicated that each electron passed either through A or B. But when the scientists looked at the screen, the results surprised them even more. The interference pattern had completely disappeared. Now, only two stripes appeared on the screen, exactly like those formed in experiments with ordinary balls. That is, when the electron was simply allowed to pass through, it behaved like a wave. But as soon as an attempt was made to measure its path, its behavior changed, and it began to appear like a particle. This mystery is called the observer effect in modern physics. The process of measurement, or the attempt to observe, itself seems to influence the outcome. At the quantum level, it appears that reality is not fixed merely as an external object, but is deeply connected with the process of measurement. One of the leading thinkers of quantum physics, Werner Heisenberg, said that what we see is not nature itself, but nature as it comes into contact with the way we ask questions. Similarly, Niels Bohr said that if a person is not surprised by quantum mechanics, then they probably have not really understood it. Quantum theory suggests that until measurement is made, a particle can exist simultaneously in multiple possible states. This condition is called superposition. And when measurement occurs, that state of possibilities appears to collapse into a definite outcome. This gives rise to a profound curiosity. If the process of measurement affects the result, then what is the true nature of this process? Is it merely the function of instruments? Or is there a deeper question connected to experience and consciousness? Science has not claimed to provide a final answer to this question, as the subject of consciousness remains one of the deepest mysteries yet to be explored.
But what if it is said that the mystery which puzzled the scientists of the 20th century had already echoed thousands of years ago in the forest hermitages of India and the quiet caves of the Himalayas? This thought takes us to the second stage of our journey, towards the Upanishads. What are the Upanishads? They are the final and profound philosophical part of the Vedas, called Vedanta, meaning the essence of the Vedas. These are the texts where humans first asked very deep questions. What is reality? What is consciousness? And what is the ultimate basis of this universe? The word Upanishad means sitting near the Guru with reverence. It is a priceless collection of dialogues between sages and disciples who tried to understand their inner experiences more than the external world. While Western science and philosophy have often asked a question of what substance this world is made of, the sages of the Upanishads raised a different and profoundly deeper question. They asked, by whom is this world known? Their focus was not on matter, but on consciousness. They experienced that a human being can know countless objects of the world: mountains, rivers, sky, thoughts, memories, and emotions. But in all these experiences, one element remains the same: the experiencer, the witnessing consciousness that knows everything, but is not itself known as an object. In the tradition of long-term self-reflection and meditation, the sages revealed a remarkable conclusion. They said
that the ultimate basis of this universe is not inert matter, but consciousness. The Upanishads call this supreme truth Brahman. A famous sentence from the Chandogya Upanishad is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, meaning that everything that exists is an extension of that Brahman. According to this perspective, what we consider the solid physical world is one of the many expressions of that Brahman. The Upanishads use the concept of Maya to explain this mystery. Maya does not mean ordinary illusion, but rather the power that manifests the one truth in many forms. Just as many types of ornaments are made from the same gold, similarly, the one truth is experienced in countless forms.
And from here arises a very interesting question. If, according to the Upanishads, the basis of experience is consciousness, and if quantum physics suggests that the process of observation seems to affect the nature of reality, then is a subtle dialogue possible between these two perspectives? This very question leads us to the next stage of our journey. Because the fundamental question raised by the sages of the Upanishads remains just as relevant today. Who is the one who truly experiences? From the perspective of the Upanishads, the consciousness within us, which manifests as the experience of I am, is called the soul, Atman. And from here, the Upanishads make a very profound declaration. They say that this individual consciousness, which we call the soul, and the fundamental consciousness of the entire universe, which is called Brahman, are not actually two separate truths. They are one and the same. This truth is expressed in the great sayings, Mahavakyas, of the Upanishads. These Mahavakyas are considered the deepest proclamations of Indian philosophy. A famous statement from the Chandogya Upanishad is Tvam Asi. It means, you are that. In other words, in its deepest form, a human being is not different from that cosmic consciousness. We are not merely separate and limited entities in this universe, but the very consciousness through which this entire existence is experienced. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad gives another Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. It means, I am Brahman. This is not a declaration of ego. It is an expression of the experience where the knowing consciousness does not see itself as separate from the ultimate truth. There remains no distinction between the experiencer and the ultimate reality. And the Aitareya Upanishad presents a very clear statement, Pragyanam Brahma, meaning consciousness itself is Brahman. In this statement, the Upanishads directly indicate that the supreme truth is not known as an external object, matter, or a distant entity, but as consciousness itself. Vedanta calls this consciousness the witnessing consciousness, Sakshi Chaitanya. Sakshi meaning the one who sees, knows, but does not get entangled in any experience. To understand this, a simple analogy is given. Like a movie plays on a screen. On that screen, many scenes appear. Light, color, motion, story. But the screen itself is not affected by those scenes. It only provides the basis for their appearance. Similarly, the witnessing consciousness illuminates every experience of our life. Thoughts, emotions, memories, and the entire experience of this world. Yet, it remains untouched by them. Now consider these two perspectives together. On one hand, modern quantum physics suggests that at the microscopic level, reality remains in a state of possibilities until the process of measurement reveals it in a definite form. On the other hand,
The Vedantic view says that this entire universe is experienced only in the light of consciousness. Without the witness, the experience of the seen is not possible. Here emerges a very interesting conceptual bridge, a profound puzzle of modern science and a fundamental question of ancient Indian spiritual thought. Both inspire us to think in the same direction. It is as if both indicate that the question of observation, experience, and the observer lies at the center of understanding reality. This similarity is so profound that it has inspired some of the great founders of quantum physics to serious contemplation. They were not limited to mathematical equations alone. They also wanted to understand the philosophical meaning of their scientific conclusions. When they observed the mysteries of the microscopic world, they felt that the traditional physical perspective was not sufficient to fully explain these experiences. In this quest, the vision of some scientists also turned towards earlier spiritual traditions, especially Vedanta. One significant name among them is Werner Heisenberg, who proposed the uncertainty principle. This principle states that at the microscopic level, it is impossible to know both the position and momentum of a particle with complete certainty simultaneously. In the 1930s, Heisenberg met the great Indian poet and philosopher Rabindranath Tagore. This was truly a meeting of two intellectual traditions, modern science and ancient spiritual thought.
In later years, the famous physicist Fritjof Capra wrote that Heisenberg had told him that his conversations with Tagore on Indian philosophy gave him deep satisfaction. Heisenberg experienced that many ideas of quantum physics, which initially seemed extremely strange, began to appear more natural and intuitive from the perspective of Indian philosophy. He also felt that the interconnected and constantly changing nature of reality, which was challenging for Western physical thought to accept, was already present as an accepted view in Indian thought. Similarly, another great physicist, Erwin Schrödinger, was also influenced by deep studies of Vedanta. His famous wave equation changed the direction of quantum mechanics. But along with scientific achievements, he also deeply contemplated the question of consciousness. In his famous book, What is Life?, he wrote that consciousness is never truly experienced in the plural. Consciousness by its nature is one. Schrödinger was deeply impressed by the idea that the multiplicity of consciousness is only a form of experience, while at the fundamental level, consciousness may be one. He found the teaching of the Upanishads particularly attractive, that ultimately there is no difference between individual consciousness and universal consciousness. In this idea, he heard a deep resonance of his philosophical inquiries. In this context, the name of Niels Bohr is also noteworthy. His contribution to the development of quantum theory was extremely important. It is said that he was also influenced by some concepts of Eastern thought. His symbol included the yin and yang sign, which points to the unity hidden within duality. These instances do not mean that science and Vedanta reach truth by the same method. Science discovers through experiment and calculation, while Vedanta does so through insight and self-reflection. However, these examples clearly show that when humans attempt to understand the deepest layers of reality, whether in the laboratory or in the tranquility of meditation, sometimes their questions and insights surprisingly come very close to each other. The observer effect is just a beginning. When we delve deeper into the perspectives of quantum physics and Vedanta, this conceptual bridge appears even clearer. It is as if two different paths, slowly moving toward the same summit, are drawing closer to each other. First, let's talk about quantum entanglement. This is an extremely mysterious principle of quantum physics. According to it,
Two particles can become linked in such a way that they seem to form a single system. If a measurement is made on one particle, the other particle immediately shows a related response, no matter how far apart they are. This phenomenon even surprised Albert Einstein, who called it a strange action occurring at a distance. Now consider the perspective of Vedanta. A fundamental principle of Vedanta is Advaita, meaning not two. According to this view, the division in the depth of existence is not real. Everything resides in the same Brahman. The same consciousness manifests in all. The great statement from the Chandogya Upanishad, Tvam Asi, points to this truth. You are that.
Meaning, the consciousness with which you perceive the world is the same consciousness pervading all existence. Here, a conceptual similarity appears, where modern physics points to interconnectedness and Vedanta points to the fundamental unity of existence. Now turn your attention to superposition. According to quantum theory, the definite state of a particle does not manifest until it is measured. Until then, it exists in a probability of many possible states. This is called superposition. In the language of Vedanta, Brahman before creation is called Nirgun. That is, the state where name, form, and qualities have not manifested. It is pure existence, the basis of infinite possibilities. When that same consciousness expresses itself in diverse forms, it is called Sagun. Here too, an interesting conceptual parallel appears: the relationship between the state of possibilities and the state of manifested form. Similarly, quantum physics discusses wave-particle duality. The same electron sometimes behaves like a wave and sometimes like a particle. Its behavior depends on how it is measured. In Vedanta as well, Brahman is described in two forms, Nirgun and Sagun. Nirgun is that which is formless, unmanifest, and beyond qualities. Sagun is that which manifests as the world through form and qualities. Both are not separate truths, but two perspectives of the same reality. And finally, another interesting idea emerges. What modern physics calls vacuum or empty space is not truly emptiness. From a scientific perspective, it is an active state of energy and possibilities, where particles are continuously created and annihilated at the microscopic level. The concept of zero in Eastern philosophy is similarly profound. Zero does not merely mean absence, but is a fundamental state from which everything arises and into which everything dissolves. Looking at all these examples, it seems that science and Vedanta are exploring the same mystery through two different methods. One studies the external world through experiment and calculation, and the other tries to understand the depth of consciousness through meditation and self-reflection. Yet, as both advance in their respective quests, sometimes their indications surprisingly come very close to each other. It is as if the summit of truth is one, and there are many paths to reach it. So what is the relation of all this to our lives? This is not just a philosophical discussion. Its implications can profoundly change the way we see ourselves. For a long time, the traditional scientific view explained to us that we are just a small part of a vast and mechanical universe. As if this universe is like a big machine and we are its tiny parts. In this view, consciousness was often considered a result of the brain's complex processes. The result was that humans began to experience themselves as separate from nature, the universe, and sometimes even from their own existence. But when we look at the discoveries of quantum physics alongside the vision of Vedanta, a different possibility emerges.
a possibility that inspires us to understand reality in a new way. There is a great saying in Vedanta, Pragyanam Brahma. It means that consciousness can be understood not merely as a result of some complex system, but as the fundamental basis of existence itself. If consciousness is not just a product, but the fundamental basis of experience, then humans are not merely passive spectators in this universe.
They become participants in experience. Then the question arises, are we just observers, or do we also have a role in the unfolding story of this vast existence? The vision of the Upanishads takes us in an even deeper direction. The great statement of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is, Aham Brahmasmi. It reminds us that the deepest nature of humans is not separate from that universal consciousness called Brahman. If this vision is close to the truth, then we are not separate units, but diverse expressions of the same existence. Just as countless waves of the ocean appear separate, but their basis is the same water. This vision can lead humans from separation to unity, from competition to coexistence and compassion. This thought inspires us to think even more deeply about the nature of consciousness. If the fundamental basis of existence is consciousness, then is consciousness limited only to the boundaries of the body, or can it be far more expansive? This question remains open, and both science and philosophy are engaged in exploring this mystery. And from here arises a deep sense of responsibility. If our vision, our attention, and our consciousness play a role in shaping our experiences, then it becomes important what we focus on. In the tradition of the Upanishads, a saying goes, Yatha drishti, tatha srishti. That is, as our vision is, so is the shape of our experience. It is possible that the discoveries of modern science are giving us a new language in this direction. A language in which the question of understanding reality is not only about matter, but also about experience and consciousness. If these thoughts are also awakening deep curiosity within you, if the thirst to understand these mysteries more profoundly is rising within you, then please like this video and tell us in the comments what your feelings are on this subject. Do you also feel that science and spirituality might actually be two different paths leading to the same truth? Please share your thoughts and questions with us, because it is through this dialogue that new understanding is born. And if you want to continue this journey with us into the deep mysteries of consciousness and the Upanishads, then subscribe to the channel and be sure to activate the notification bell so that in upcoming videos, we can together explore even deeper dimensions of consciousness and existence. Now, let us calmly take a look at this entire journey once again. We have seen how the observer effect in modern quantum physics presents an interesting conceptual similarity with the Upanishadic concept of witness consciousness. We also learned that great scientists like Heisenberg and Schrödinger looked towards Eastern thought and Vedanta to understand the philosophical meanings of their scientific work. We touched upon the emerging conceptual similarities between ideas like quantum entanglement and the unity of Advaita, superposition, and the infinite possibilities of Brahman. But here, it is important to clarify one thing. To say that the Upanishads had already discovered modern quantum physics would be a gross oversimplification. The methods of inquiry in science and Vedanta are different. Science understands the external world through experiments and mathematics, while Vedanta attempts to know the mysteries of consciousness through insight and self-experience. Therefore, these similarities cannot be called direct scientific evidence. They can be more appropriately called conceptual resonances. Still, this resonance is so profound that it invites us to a new perspective. A perspective where science and spirituality do not appear as opposites,
but as complements. Science helps us understand how the universe works. It provides us the means to comprehend the structure of nature through laws, theories, and mathematical equations.
And spiritual thought raises the question of what this universe truly is and what our place is in this vast existence. It attempts to give meaning and direction to the experience of life. When these two perspectives are in balance, the quest for knowledge becomes more holistic. Scientific curiosity drives us to seek truth, and spiritual insight deepens the experience of that truth. The bridge between quantum physics and the Upanishads is not yet fully constructed. It is a possibility, a sign that still needs to be understood more deeply. But it gives us a very inspiring message. The universe is not as simple and mechanical as it was once thought to be. It is far more mysterious, far more alive, and far more wondrous. And it is possible that our consciousness is not merely a spectator of this vast cosmic dance, but an integral part of it. Perhaps science and spirituality are two different languages, but they are telling the same story. That story is of consciousness. That story is of that infinite truth which has manifested itself as this vast universe in order to know itself.